Interviewing is hard, and most people think, well, if I'm qualified for the job, I should be able to interview and get the job. But it's not always the case. In fact, I recently came across 2 articles in which hiring managers are actually laying traps for candidates to trick them in the job interview process. In today's video, I'm going to tell you about these 2 traps so you can avoid them, and then I'm also going to give you my perspective. Let's go. Now, the first one was recently came out. It's an article. It's pretty popular, and it's called the wobbly chair tactic. And what the hiring manager will do is they'll have a person who comes on site for an on-site interview, and they'll invite them to sit down in a chair across the desk from them. And that chair is wobbly, meaning they have shortened one of the legs or they've done something so that when the person sits down, it's not level, right? And there's another chair over there. And the hiring manager in this article says basically no matter how the interview goes, no matter how qualified the candidate is, if they just tolerate the chair, instead of saying, excuse me, this chair is wobbly, would you mind if I switch it with this one? They will not hire that person. Now, when I first read this article, my first response was, this is exactly why people hate interviewing. This has nothing to do with how effective I am at the job, maybe how good of a teammate I'm going to be. This is just, do I say something about a chair? Now, I get the perspective of the hiring manager. They want someone who is problem solving. They want someone who isn't afraid to speak up. They want someone who notices something and has the courage to say, can I swap chairs? But it also is frustrating to me. From my perspective, imagine being the perfect candidate. Imagine being someone who is really, really effective at the job, and you've practiced and you are ready for this interview, you have prepared, and you sit down in this chair. And instead of being like, oh, I should swap it, you're like, well, I don't want to be seen as someone who's complaining. So I will just sit still and this won't bother me. Now, this candidate who thought about it and had a reasonable response, is incredibly qualified and well prepared, isn't going to get the job. So my advice is that if you do end up going into a place and the chair is wobbly, you can certainly say, hey, do you mind if I swap this? But another thing that pops into my head, is this really a person that you would want to work for? I don't know if I would. I mean, if I really think about it, if I'm the perfect candidate and this one little thing is going to keep me from getting the job, this person's probably going to be pretty challenging to work for. Now, the next one is the cup trick. Now, the cup trick is really interesting. So what happens in this one is you have an on-site, in-person interview, and they ask you, hey, would you like a cup? Or would you like a coffee or a water? Not just a cup would be very good. But they say, hey, would you like some water? Would you like a coffee? And you're going to say yes, right? You'll say, yeah, I would. And then at the end of the interview, they're going to ask you if you want to go for a tour around the facility. And you'll say yes. And the hiring manager, no matter how good the interview is, if you just go on that tour, say, hey, thank you, shake hands and leave, they're not going to hire you. Why? Well, it's because they're looking for someone to go, hey, I use this cup, it's dirty, do you mind if I return it, to the kitchen, to the dishwasher, or what should I do with this cup, right? Somebody who isn't just going to leave things around for other people to take care of. Now, there are parts of me that understand this, right? Like for me personally, I would want to make sure I'm not leaving a mess for others to clean up. But to purposely set the stage, do this thing, ask people if they want to go on a tour, and then hold them accountable for not offering to take the cup and put it back proactively, to me, it is very similar to the other thing. I find it frustrating because you can do everything right. You can be well qualified, motivated for the right reasons. You could be adequately prepared, but then they engineer a scenario in which maybe there isn't the perfect time for you to say, hey, can I bring this cup back? Or you don't know where the kitchen is, or if they even have a kitchen. Maybe you don't know the scenario, and for them to write off an entire candidate because of this one thing, I find that to be incredibly frustrating. Some of these things, if you notice them, they're signs of a poor culture, but a poor culture can actually be really hard to diagnose because there's not obvious clues like this sometimes, which is why I made this video. This video here are questions you can actually ask in your interview that are going to allow you to understand, is this going to be a good place to work or a not good place to work? And being able to know that definitively is huge. It is incredibly important. So I am done here, but I will see you over there.